Hello, first graders. I am so glad to see you again. Tuning in for our read aloud for this week. Our read aloud is called King Midas and the Golden Touch. And I'm pretty sure that you read this book last year, those of you, of course, who were at Meadowland. But this is a wonderful story, and I am sure that you will enjoy hearing it again, even if you've heard it before. Some of you might not know the story, though. This is a Greek myth. And Greek myths, just like folk tales, are fiction stories. Can you think of any other Greek myths that we have read? We've read a couple of them this year. One of them was Little Bear, You're a Star. Remember, in that book, Hera, Zeus's wife, was jealous and turned the woman into a bear, and she couldn't take care of her son Argos. Do you remember that story? And then at the end, Argos was turned into a bear too. So the mother bear and the baby bear were reunited. Yep. And then remember the story of Persephone. Remember Hades, the god of the underworld, kidnapped her and took her below to the underworld to make her his queen. But her mother Demeter was sad and didn't make things grow on the earth. And that's the story of how we have the seasons. A lot of myths explain why things are the way they are in our world. And remember on Valentine's Day, I read the story of, we had read the story in kindergarten of Cupid and Daphne, Apollo and Daphne. Remember where Apollo was chasing Daphne and her father changed her into a laurel tree in order to escape? Yep, we read that one in kindergarten. And then this year, we read Atalanta's Race. Remember where Hippomenes was trying to catch up with Atalanta and he threw the golden apples that Aphrodite had given him so that she would be distracted, and he won the race. Remember that story? That wasn't too long ago that we read that, right? All right, so this book is called King Midas and the Golden Touch. And it is told by Charlotte Craft and illustrated by K.Y. Craft. And the publisher is HarperCollins Publishers. Okay, now we're going to be thinking about how King Midas, the main character in this book, is very similar to Father Mouse in The Greatest of All that we read last week. These two characters are very, very similar. So let's focus on how they are the same as we read these two books. And these books also teach a very similar lesson. So be thinking about that as we read. Today we're just going to read the beginning of the story. Right? On the front cover you see King Midas and his little daughter, Aurelia, whom he loves dearly. But he loves something else even more. He loves gold. That is his absolute favorite thing. And we're going to find out how that gets King Midas into some trouble. King Midas and the Golden Touch. This is a small picture, so I'll move over. There once lived a very rich king called Midas, who believed that nothing was more precious than gold. He loved its soft yellow hue and comforting weight in the palm of his hand. The chink of gold coins dropped into a leather purse sounded sweeter to him than the songs of his finest musicians. There was only one thing that Midas loved more, and that was his daughter Aurelia. Aurelia, he often told her as she played by the throne, someday I shall bequeath to you the greatest treasury of gold in all the world. To bequeath means to give someone when you die, basically, like almost like an inheritance. So when King Midas is no longer there, his daughter is going to inherit or get all of the gold that he has, all of the greatest treasury of gold in all the world. There had been a time, however, when King Midas loved roses as much as he now loved gold. He had once called together the best gardeners in his realm, and the garden they created for him became renowned for the beauty and variety of its roses. But in time, the delicate fragrances and exquisite colors meant nothing to Midas. Only Aurelia still loved the garden. Every day she would pick a bouquet of the most perfect roses to adorn the king's breakfast table. But when Midas saw the flowers, he would think, their beauty lasts but a day. If they were gold, it would last forever. One day, the king's guards found an old man asleep under the rose bushes and brought him before King Midas. There's the old man asleep in the rose garden. Unbind him, Midas ordered. Without my gold, I would be as poor as he. Tonight he shall dine with me. So that night the old man sat at the king's table, where he was well fed and entertained by the king himself. And after a good night's sleep, the old man went on his way. So what can you say about King Midas? What kind of person is he? He may love gold. And remember, what's the word for when somebody loves to have a lot and they want more and more and more? Do you remember the word for that? Yep, greedy. We're going to find out that King Midas is greedy. He loves his gold. But he is also what? How does he treat the old man? Remember that the king's guards brought him before King Midas, and he was bound because King Midas said unbind him. What does it mean if someone's bound? You know what that means? That's kind of an old word. Bound means tied up, and to unbind means to untie. So they basically arrested him, the guards. They tied his hands behind his back like he had been arrested. And King Midas could have thrown him into the dungeon, right? He was trespassing. He was on the king's property. He could have been thrown in prison. But instead, the king brought him to his table and let him eat dinner with him and had his musicians play music for him. So what kind of person is King Midas? He may be greedy, but he has some good qualities too. Can you turn and talk to someone and tell them about what kind of person King Midas is? in the way that he treated the old man? You're right. He is kind, right? He's not a cruel king. He's a kind king, and he shows kindness to the old man. That morning, as he often did, Midas went down into his dungeon. There he is. And what is he doing in his dungeon? He's looking at gold, and he's counting the gold. Okay? That morning, as he often did, Midas went down into his dungeon. With a huge brass key, he unlocked the door to the secret chamber where he kept his gold. After carefully locking the door behind him, he sat down to admire his precious wealth. "Ah, I do love it so," he sighed, gazing at his riches. "No matter how hard I work, no matter how long I live, I will never have enough." King Midas is definitely King Midas is definitely greedy because he says he will never have enough. If somebody will never have enough of something, it means they want what? Yes, they want more. So he has so much gold already, but he wants more and more and more gold. That means what's that word again? That when you want more and more and more money, or more and more and more for yourself? Yes, King Midas is greedy. Now, is he happy with what he has? Nope. I'm going to teach you a new word for happy and a new word for unhappy. So another way to say happy is content. If you are happy with your life and happy with the way things are, you are content. Okay, so the opposite of happy is unhappy. We call that a prefix, un. We put it in front of a word to change the meaning, to make it the opposite. Happy and unhappy are opposites, and we can put un in front to make the opposite meaning. Happy, unhappy. What about the word content? We can't say uncontent. There's no such word. Instead, we say discontent. And dis is another prefix that means not. So is King Midas content? Nope. He is discontent. He feels like he wants more and more gold. Look at that. Look at King Midas. Look at his face. How does he look? Yes, he looks surprised. He looks shocked. What does it look like is in the room with him, down in the dungeon where his gold is? It almost looks like a ghost. Let's find out. Right. He was lost in these thoughts when the chamber suddenly filled with light. King Midas looked up and was amazed to behold the glowing figure of a young man. Since there was no way into the room but through the locked door, Midas knew that he was in the presence of magic. How did he know that there was some kind of magic going on? Can you turn and tell somebody next to you? Why did he think he was in the presence of magic, of something supernatural? or magical. Yes, you're right, because the door was locked. It was bolted shut, and there was no way into the room but through the locked door. So this being went right through the door. Yep. Do you not recognize me, friend? Midas shook his head. The mysterious stranger smiled at him, and it seemed that all the gold in the dungeon glittered even brighter. I am the old man from the rose garden. Instead of punishing me for trespassing, you entertained me at your table. I had thought to reward you for your kindness, but with so much gold, you must surely want for nothing. So he's saying to him, with so much gold, you can't possibly want any more. Do you think that's true? Nope. We know that Midas is greedy. That's not true, cried Midas. A man can never have enough gold. The stranger's smile broadened. Well then, what would make you a happier man? Midas thought for only a moment. Perhaps if everything I touched would turn to gold, he said. That is your wish? Yes, for then it would always be at my fingertips, Midas assured him. Think carefully, my friend, said the stranger. Yes, replied Midas. The golden touch would bring me all the happiness I need. And so it shall be yours, said the stranger. And there's the stranger. With that, the mysterious figure became brighter and brighter until the light became so intense that Midas had to close his eyes. When he opened them, he was alone once again. Had the enchantment worked? Midas eagerly rubbed the great brass door key, but was greatly disappointed. There was no gold in his hands. Bewildered, he looked around the dim room and wondered if perhaps he had been dreaming. So when Midas touched the brass door key, the big door key that opened the door to the dungeon, he was disappointed. Why was he disappointed? Remember what the word disappointed means? Is he happy or not happy? You're right, he's unhappy. Disappointed is when you're unhappy because you're expecting something to happen. You're expecting something good to happen, and it doesn't happen. And then you feel sad, right? What was King Midas expecting to happen when he touched the brass door key? Brass is a different kind of metal. Can you turn and tell someone what you think King Midas expected to happen and why he was disappointed? Yes, you're right. King Midas expected that brass key to turn to gold, and it didn't. So the enchantment, the magic was not working. Let me turn the page. What do we see in this picture? Is the magic working? How do you know? Turn and tell somebody next to you, mom or dad or brother or sister. Turn and tell them what's happening in this picture. Yes, it looks like everything King Midas is touching is turning to gold. His bedspread and his pillow and his clothing. Do you think, remember that the stranger said to him, "Think carefully, my friend"? Do you think Midas was thinking carefully? Do you think that this is a good idea to wish for everything you touch to turn to gold? Why do you think this is a good idea, or why don't you? So turn and tell someone whether you think his wish to touch everything and have it turn to gold. Tell the person next to you if you think it's a good idea or not, and then tell them why. What do you think is going to happen to Midas? Let's find out. So here he is in his bed in the morning, touching everything and having it turn to gold. But when King Midas awoke the next day, he found his bedchamber bathed in golden light. Glistening in the morning sun, the plain linen bed covers had been transformed into finely spun gold. Jumping out of bed, he gasped with astonishment. The bedspread turned to gold as soon as he touched it. "It's true," he cried. "I have the golden touch." Midas pulled on his clothes. He was thrilled to find himself wearing a handsome suit of gold. Never mind that it was a bit heavy. He slid his spectacles onto his nose. To his delight, they too turned to gold. Never mind that he couldn't see through them. So what are spectacles? If they turned to gold but he couldn't see through them. Yeah, they're glasses. If my glasses turned to gold, I would be in trouble because I definitely could not see through them. That's what happened to Midas, but he didn't care. He was so happy that they had turned to gold. With a gift as great as this, he thought, no inconvenience could be too great. So he was so happy that everything was turning to gold that he didn't care if he was inconvenienced. That means he didn't care if he had little problems, like not being able to see through his glasses. Without wasting another moment, Midas rushed out of the room, through the palace, and into the garden. There he is, walking down the stairs, and as he touches each step on the staircase, it turns to gold. And what do you think he's going to do when he gets out to the garden? Do you remember what he said about the roses? He wished that they were golden. Remember what he said? That roses only last for a day, but golden roses would last forever. So what do you think Midas is going to do? You're right. He's going to start touching the roses and turning them to gold. And there he is in the rose garden, touching all of the roses so that they turn into gold. The roses glistened with the morning dew, and their scent gently perfumed the air. Midas went from bush to bush, touching each of the blossoms. "How happy Aurelia will be when she sees these roses of gold," he exclaimed. He never noticed how the perfect golden blossoms drooped and pulled down the bushes, with their weight. So gold is a lot heavier. A golden rose, a rose made of gold, is a lot heavier than a real rose. And the heavy roses made the bushes droop. What do you think the word droop means from the context? I'm going to read it one more time and see if you can hear a clue word. Of words in the sentence that give you a clue. He never noticed how the perfect golden blossoms drooped and pulled down the bushes with their weight. Yeah, pulled down is the clue. That's what tells you what drooped means. Drooped means hanging down because something's pulling it down. Right? Drooping is hanging down. Okay, we are going to stop right here. Okay, but I want you to think about what is going to happen. Let's make a prediction. Do you think Aurelia will love the golden roses? What else do you think might happen to King Midas as he continues to touch things and have them turn to gold? Can you turn and tell mom and dad or brother or sister what your prediction is? Do you think Aurelia will love the golden roses? And what else do you think will happen to King Midas as he uses his golden touch? Okay, we are going to find out tomorrow, boys and girls, or during our next session, what happens to King Midas. All right, thank you very much for listening to the beginning of the story, and I will see you next time. Bye.